Hello, and welcome to this edition of HCS Matters. My name is John Wright. I'm the Public Relations Director for Hardin County Schools, and as you all know, the weather is changing. It is getting colder. The leaves are almost off the trees, and at least as we sit here and tape this in mid-November, on November the 14th, there is a chance of ice in the morning as we tape this. So the weather is changing quickly, and obviously the big part of how that affects us is with our transportation. And so we're sitting here with our District Transportation Director, Mr. Chris Quarter. And Chris, obviously snow is not your favorite thing. I know it's not my favorite thing, but it's something we must face. So let's talk about our snow plan, and we've just kind of ironed that out in the last recent weeks.
We have a team here. We normally hit the roads between 3:15, 3:30 in the morning. We've kind of got 4 different people that have a route. Some people here from the garage, Mr. Stucker from Buildings and Grounds, and we just go out and check it out. We also coordinate with the County Road Department, with the County Emergency Services Bryce Shoemate, to get as much information as we can. We all kind of get together, like to have a decision, if at all possible, by 4:30, 4:45, and then it kind of goes up the ladder from there, and we make a decision. Always keeping in mind that the safety of our students is our #1 priority.
Right, so you're watching a lot of weather forecasts between the time we start hearing about snow and until the snow hits.
Yeah, the National Weather Service, we're on a group list with them, and actually got a slide show from them this morning concerning tomorrow morning's event. So we take that. I watch a lot of weather. I watch a lot more weather than I actually like to be honest with you, because they all tell a different story. But ultimately, you know, it's a forecasting game, and we're always going to err on the side of the caution, you know. And you're never going to make anybody happy because we're never going to make everybody happy because we're such a big county, and things happen in the north end that don't happen in the south end. But we're always going to err on the side of caution for our students.
I'm sure you've been in education in this district, I guess, all your career. Yes. And you've heard this, I've heard this. Well, the smaller districts seem to stay open. Why does Hardin County close? Why are we so quick to close, I guess?
Well, a number I'll throw at you is about 18,000 miles, because our buses travel about 18,000 miles a day in this county. And we're not going to risk running one bus off the road. It's not worth it. It's never going to be worth it as long as I'm sitting in this chair, because we're going to do things for the safety of our students. And we do realize it. I mean, it can snow in the southwest corner of Hardin County, but there's a lot of roads that they don't get treated. They never see the sunlight because they're shaded, and those roads just take longer to come back, and we can't run a bus down.
Lots of curves, lots of
curves, lots of hills, lots of valleys. It's a big county.
Right.
It's a big county. And
as you alluded to, Chris, it's not something that Chris Quarter does by himself, and it's not really your final decision.
No, Miss Morgan makes the call, not to throw her under the bus, but we get out, we give her the information, and then, you know, she's always going to err on the side, you know, of caution, what's safest for our students, because again, it's not worth it. You see the video last year of the bus, and I think it was Boston, that was sliding down a hill because they got caught when a hill had iced over, and it's things like that just scare you to death, and that's not something that we're going to do. Obviously, I think some folks have a hard time understanding that traveling in a car in bad weather is completely different than traveling in a bus in bad weather. Explain the difference. Well, you know, just the weight, the overall weight factor. Once that bus gets sliding, once that bus gets going in the direction that it's not supposed to go, especially if it has 40 children on it, the sheer momentum of it, it's not going to stop until it runs into something or runs off the road, and that's not something that obviously we're going to take the chance on. These they're big, they're bright yellow. A lot of people still don't see them. We can talk about that in a little bit more in a minute, but they don't handle. They're not built to handle that way, and that's why you don't see them on the road when there is snow.
And I know it's not your specialty, but we have been in some meetings, so I'm going to ask you to talk about it. We talk about events at school, or events, or maybe just parking lots at schools, and we've got to think about not just, you know, after we make the decision to close school, then we start thinking about, well, you know, North Hardin may have a basketball game, sure, or Central Hardin may have an event, or whatever.
And that is really tough, and it's I've been on both sides of it now, because as a former coach, oh, we can play, we need to play. But again, it goes into the safety, and it's a little different. Yeah, we might have a bus traveling
And a lot of times, if the roads don't clear up, well, sorry, we're not going to be able to play. But in those times that maybe it's clearing up a little bit, we've still got to keep in mind we've got students on the road, maybe on their personal vehicles. If they're a cheerleader, a basketball player, a wrestler, a swimmer, to get to that facility for their game or for their meet, that we just can't risk that. And we're always going to err on the side of caution. And we play a role in, you know, what goes on with extracurriculars, whether it's a bus traveling, whether it's us talking to Joe Stucker at Buildings and Grounds, hey, what does the parking lot look like? Because that's another liability issue you get when you're bringing people to a facility and there's ice in the parking lot. A lot of things go into, like you said, a lot of people think, well, once school's off, his job's over for the day. No, not really, because we're not only looking at the next day, are we going to be able to get back in school, but we're looking at that night's activities, what's going to go on. And then it gets even trickier when you get to a weekend.
And you may probably make more people mad making that type of decision.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt, because I've been there and I understand the frustration of not being able to practice, not being able to have a game. Well, now we got to try to reschedule. Again, it's always going to be about, it's the safety of our students, the safety of our coaches, employees, and you know, and then again, the safety of the people traveling to the event in the event that you're having it.
Let's talk about cheerier things now instead of snow. You have a great team here. I mean, not just in this building, but those 200 drivers that you have on the road and the mechanics and aides, and you just have a wonderful team.
We have a team that, quite frankly, is very underappreciated in my opinion, because I don't think a lot of people realize what they do on a daily basis. I mean, we transport 12,500, 13,000 kids every day. No matter what the weather, how hot it is, how cold it is. Are we always exactly on time? No. But we get you to school, we get you to from. Things happen, you know, we're short drivers. We're still short drivers. So if you're seeing this and you got any interest, give us a call. We'll train you. We'll put you, we'll do it right. We'll get you on the road. But the coordinators in here, they do a fabulous job of just making sure everybody gets to school and everybody gets home. The mechanics do a great job making sure that the buses stay on the road. The secretaries do a good job taking the hundreds of phone calls that come in here every day when things don't go exactly right. Because this is not an exact science. No matter what anybody wants to say, we get them there, we get them home, and we do it in a safe manner, and that's always going to be the goal.
And your work actually is obviously year-round work, but your work really starts to pick up in the summer when you're planning your routes, and that's a pretty huge task.
It is a big task. You know, we haven't embraced the technology in the past as much as we do now. We'll continue to get better than that, which will make that process more efficient and a little easier. But yeah, I mean, they start building routes mid-June, early July, and that goes right up until, you know, our open enrollment period is a big deal because we enroll a lot of kids, you know, that week and a half, 2 weeks before school. And when you do that, well, you've got to put them on a route. And sometimes adding 3 or 4 kids to a route can make a huge difference, because now that bus is overcrowded, well, now we got to shift. So it's a big puzzle. And Edna and Jennifer and Danny do a great job of putting that puzzle together.
How do you keep, Chris, all of the regulations in your head? Because you've got to think about how many students can fit on a bus, what time it can go out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So talk about that.
You really have to be cognizant of, 1, the number of kids on the bus, 2, how long are the children on the bus, because we realize some of these bus rides are long, but based on the geography of where people live, that's kind of unavoidable. But David Dunaway, our safety and training coordinator, he does an awesome job making sure that, you know, driver physicals, driver CDL licenses, all that stays up to date and we're in compliance, because again, you're dealing with 200, 225 drivers. That's a huge undertaking, and David does a great job, and the coordinators do a great job of staying on top of everyone, you know, making sure that takes place. And then Brad and his group in the shop, they touch every bus every 20 days. So every bus has to come in for service every 20 days. Huge undertaking. They service anywhere between 13 to 15 buses a day. That doesn't count the breakdowns, you know, the mishaps, things that just go wrong. So it's a huge team effort, and they show up every day and do a great job.
You touched on it, but I think we've got the same problem that a lot of people in our community have, is not being able to find the people to provide all the help that we need.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, and I read something. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago. You know, when unemployment's low, this is not a job that people, you know, flock to, because it's tough. I mean, it's tough, and it's so important, and it's very pressure filled, because you've got 40 people's kids on your bus, and you're responsible
with your back to them.
With your back to them, yeah. And they don't always sit and do exactly what they're supposed to do. But your job is to drive the bus, and that's tough. It's a hard job to say, hey, come do this. I mean, it really takes a special person, a person that really enjoys being around students, really enjoys getting to know kids, and those are the ones that are most successful. You know, it's a relationship business. It's still a people business. But you're transporting very important cargo.
Aids as well, or almost instructional aids.
Monitors, monitors is the same thing. You know, we have monitors on a lot of our buses, and again, it's kind of the same thing. It kind of runs in spells. We just had a class of monitors. We hired some. We run a class of drivers now about once a month. We've kind of slowed down on that, making our classes a little bigger. Bringing a few through, but I mean, you know, sickness happens, illness happens. You know, we're always going to need drivers. I don't know that we can get to that level where we say, oh, we don't need any more. I don't see that in my near future.
Right. A lot of people, Chris, have said some things to us about, well, I see a bus that may have 10 students on it, then I see another bus that has 40 students on it. So talk about those differences.
We get those calls every day, and that's a concerned taxpayer is what that is, because those are their dollars, you know, going up and down the road. And I completely understand that. And a lot of times it's a geographical thing. You see a lot of that in the southern end of the county a lot of times, because there's some pockets of population. There may be 8 or 10 kids there but there's one way to get there, and there's really no other areas we could service. So yeah, the loads are smaller. Whereas conversely, maybe in the north end, you see a bus. Oh my gosh, there was 64 kids on that bus. Well, first of all, you're really good at math. You counted them that quick. But secondly, yeah, they're full because they're shorter routes. And that's the other thing. You know, you could combine some routes in the south end, but the last thing we want is kids on the bus for 2 hours. And some areas in the southern end of the county, you can very easily end that way if you don't get them a more direct route home.
And really, there are buses on the road. People say, well, I see buses on the road at 10 in the morning. I see buses on the road at 1 in the afternoon.
Yep.
That's right, because we're transporting students to field trips, early college and career center, et cetera, preschool.
With shuttle drivers, all midday preschool, they never stop. I mean, we'll have buses, and that's the reason 5 o'clock is so important when we talk about inclement weather. We have drivers starting the routes at 5:15. And we have drivers ending the routes, not extracurricular routes, at the end of the day at 5 o'clock. So yeah, and there's a lot of them. They're everywhere. They're not hard to, you know, they're hard to miss. I mean, they're bright yellow, and so we get a lot of calls. It's good, and it's good that people ask those questions. And I know some people say, well, it shouldn't matter how long a kid's on a bus, but it does.
Sure does.
Because if you're on that seat and you're a parent, how long do you really want your kid on that bus? That long? And we try to minimize those times whenever possible.
It seems like it's been brought to light more about people. You talk about they're hard to miss, but evidently some people do miss them.
There is people really. We just urge you, when you see a driver, when you see a bus and you see their lights come on, you see that stop arm come out. We need you to stop. Nothing is worth the hurry you're in of hitting one of our students getting off a bus. Our drivers are trained, you know, to stop. They put their lights on way before they stop. They give you ample warning. But you'll see in a little while, we're employing some technology now that hopefully will deter some of these, because we're going to take some pictures of you when you do run the stop arm, or you come past the bus when the lights are on.
So we're going to go out into the shop, see kind of the backside of what our transportation department works with. And we're also going to get on a bus. David Dunaway, who Chris talked about earlier, is going to show us some things out on the road that makes you, will hopefully help you make you appreciate more what our drivers and the transportation team does on a daily basis. So we talked earlier about bus safety and really other people kind of running. That seems like it's becoming more popular, sadly. More people running stop arms or running stop signs. And Chris, we're really having to find ways to stop that, and talk about some equipment that you put on the bus to stop it.
We're trying some new technology. with a new camera system that actually has exterior cameras now that we'll be adding to our buses that will hopefully deter people that don't observe when the lights are on. We'll have a camera toward the front of the bus that will be able to get a description of the vehicle as it breaks the law. And we also have a camera on the exterior of the bus, that will provide a shot of the camera, the rear of the camera if it's going this way to get a picture of the license plate, and then the driver of the vehicle if it's coming this way when it runs the stop arm, and we'll be turning those over to the county attorney.
Chris, how do you miss this? I mean, I guess texting,
texting, you're not paying attention, you're in a hurry, everybody's running late, everybody's in a hurry. That's the bottom line. But, you know, people have to realize that, you know, kids don't always get out and stay on the door side of the bus. Sometimes they have to cross a lane of traffic. While we do everything we can to try to avoid that, a lot of times it's unavoidable. We do as many door side stops as we possibly can, but you know, people have to cross the road, and you know, we've had people pass buses on the right hand side on a shoulder. I mean, it's just the video we see, and we get a video of everything. So don't think if you do this that you're getting away with it, because if it's reported, we investigate it, and whenever possible, we turn it over to the county attorney.
All right. Okay, we're going to step inside the bus, or maybe look at some other technologies that will help, again, make kids safer. Again, more technology that helps keep students safer. And Chris, talk about what we have here.
So what we're doing right now is we've got a monitor hooked up to our 5-camera system that we have on the bus. We've got 3 interior cameras which cover the greatest majority of the bus. Then we have our 2 exterior cameras, and all of this records to this hard drive. So when we do have an incident on the bus, whether it be with another vehicle, with a student or a driver, we're able to pull the hard drive. I can download the hard drive and we review the incident. And based on that, we might do additional training with our driver. The schools use this information when there's discipline problems with students. And then we'll continue to use it with the stop arm violators and the people who don't respect the lights of the bus.
You also, Chris, have some GPSs.
Yes, we do. On these, we have GPS built into the hard drive. It's not live GPS. I can't pull it up from my computer, but I can download it. I can tell it where an incident does happen on the bus. We are currently piloting with a GPS company for live GPS that hopefully over the next year or so we will see that go fleet-wide, which will be a great addition it's just another safety feature for our fleet.
These cameras look very clear. I mean,
these are HD cameras. They record in 1080. You can get a bigger view there, but you can see there's a rear camera, and then there's 2 at the front. One that's focused on the driver and the door, and then this camera that gets the back of the bus.
You know, talking about bus drivers, they're the only people that we ask to have their back to the audience.
Yes.
They're also the only people we videotape doing their jobs.
Yes. And we try to explain to drivers, especially new ones, why is there cameras on my bus? We're doing that to protect you, because things are going to happen back there that you're never going to know happens because you're driving the bus. And you know, 99% of our kids get on the bus, ride the right way, do what they're supposed to do, but there's 1%, they're kids. I mean, they're going to do things that kids do, and when they do, they're caught. These cameras do a great job. The newer cameras especially do a great job covering basically every inch of the bus to catch those things.
And you've probably actually maybe helped some drivers by maybe protecting them from some things, some accusations that folks made.
That's exactly right. These cameras, something I haven't added. They also have microphones, so we hear everything. So we do get that call. That driver said this to my kid, and Well, man, we'll look into that. And I pull probably 30 to 40 videos a week that range from a variety of things, whether it's traffic issues or student misbehavior or driver. You know, drivers they're humans, they make mistakes, and we'll talk to them. We'll do some training. They'll get with Mr. Dunaway. We'll get them with one of our trainers, whether it's a pupil management issue or a driving issue. But everything you do and see everything you say and do is recorded, and that's the big thing. And it should be a peace of mind for a driver. It's not a gotcha thing. It's we want you to be safe, and we're going to make sure you're safe.
All right. Well, speaking of Mr. Dunaway, I think we're going to ride around a little bit with him now, and we appreciate Mr. Corder showing us, just talking to us about safety, and then also kind of showing us the back side of the garage and some technology that keep our students safe. So let's ride around with Mr. Dunaway.
As you can tell, we're on a Hardin County Schools bus, and we're with District Safety Coordinator David Dunaway. We're talking about student safety today on school buses. And David, not only are you safety coordinator, you are driver also extraordinaire, fill-in driver, and you've ran routes for several years within the district. I guess what's your favorite thing about driving a school bus?
The kids, especially the little ones. They love you no matter what. Yeah. The babies do. I say babies, preschool, right, kindergarten. And when you're first, second graders. But I mean, I enjoy being around the young folks anyway. I mean, that's what makes it all worthwhile, you know. And being safety coordinator, their well-being and safety is my #1 concern. And so, yeah.
And so our drivers, you included, I mean, and Mr. Quarter put it very apropos, I guess, to say that, you know, these are, we're taking, just like a classroom teacher, these students are yours.
Yes.
I mean, you take them very personal, and you guys build relationships with them, and because they are the first person you see in the morning and the last person they see when they go home.
That's what we stress in our training for new drivers. As a matter of fact, that's the very first thing I talk about before we even start talking about rules and regulations. It's all about their attitude. It's all about how they greet that child when they get on that bus. And like you said, it's that you, the bus driver, may be the very first person they see in the morning. You may be the first friendly face they see in the morning. And so, and you can set their day. You set the tone for their day. And if you set a bad tone, then most likely they're going to have a bad day at school. So, no use create problems for the school staff, right, with you. Just start out with you first. You know, you have the good attitude.
Several positions, David, are still open within the transportation team, and I think, you know, as Mr. Quarter said, there's always going to be transportation positions open just because of the nature of the game. But if somebody's kind of thinking about applying, what would you tell them?
Get online. Before you even get online, go ahead and start obtaining your CDL. Get your permit, because that will help facilitate us in getting you through the class quicker. And I would, you know, if you're somebody who's retired military, retired law enforcement, retired first responder like firefighters, EMT, love to have you, because you've got that critical situation response already ingrained in you. And so those kind of folks I'd like to see. But I mean, you don't necessarily have to be in that category. If it's you're saying, I've got folks that have their own businesses and works out great for them to get insurance. They, you know, having your own business, insurance is kind of a premium. But if you've got your own business and you want to do something part-time to get the insurance, this is a great way to do it. I've got a lot of folks that, hairdressers, for example. I've got some car repair guys that do that. They're kind of freelance, and it works out great for their schedule, and works great for us too. So,
Mr. Quarter, going back to the safety discussion, Mr. Quarter talked about, David, that we see probably maybe even 40 to 50, maybe even 50 to 60 incidents in our district where people run the stop arm or run the stop sign on a school bus. Sitting in your seat, I couldn't imagine anything more frustrating.
Well, it's frustrating and very frightening. I had a situation last spring when I was subbing, and I was picking up a group of kids, middle school students. I had about 10 at a stop. Everyone, of course, I got stopped. Traffic was stopped, or at least behind me. There wasn't anybody in front of me at that time. Most of the kids made it across, and I saw a kid coming down the street. He was running late, so I was waiting on him. And as we were sitting there waiting, here comes another car from the other direction. And the only thing I can tell you was they were driving so fast. It was a maroon car, and they were white-headed. I couldn't tell if it was male or female.
Right, sure.
And the student got to the edge of the road, and before I could blow my horn, they had already clipped him. And I thought, and he went to the ground. And my heart went up in my throat. I thought, this kid's done been killed. Well, as it turns out, the car went by. He jumps up, runs across, and he gets on the bus. I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yeah, I'm okay. She just hit my backpack." I said, "Really?" It's like, oh my Lord. I mean, I was a nervous wreck after that. Right. I mean, and we had the recent tragedy up in Indiana where 3 children got killed. I mean, I could just barely imagine what that driver's feeling compared to what I almost experienced.
Right.
And it's something that you have to take responsibility for and take very seriously.
Right.
And this is what we try to instill in our drivers, all our drivers, to be ever conscious of the traffic. Because the John R. public anymore, there's too many distractions, and the cell phone is probably the worst distraction we got going on right now.
Right. Talk about people are distracted, obviously, but it is hard to miss this very long yellow automobile, but people still do it on a regular basis. But David, your drivers are they are trained so very, very well, and I'm not just saying it because you're the one that trains them, but they have to know so many things. And again, as we've noted earlier a couple times, their audience is behind them 99.9% of the time. So talk about how our drivers kind of go through all those things of keeping up with safety and then keeping up with what's going on behind them at the same time.
Well, I think it's key for our drivers, and a lot of them will tell you that they communicate with their kids. They communicate what's expected of them at the bus stops. To be out at the bus stop 5 minutes before the bus gets there, stand 10 feet away from the road, or as our bus safety team will put 5 giant steps. That's how they teach the kids. And our drivers convey to our kids what they expect, communication, communicating with the parents, and if you have that relationship with the parents and the kids, it can't help but be helping the safety factor.
And I would think that's something you would encourage as a driver and as a safety coordinator, is for parents to get to know their driver, their child's driver, and create that relationship.
I mean, we talk about writing kids up and discipline, that sort of thing, but our thing is and I tell my people, communication. It's very, very key to I can count on one hand the number of write-ups I've had, last year and the year before. It's because if I can get to that person who's taking care of that child, we can work the issues out that we're having, rather than go through the school and all that. If it gets to that point, yes. I mean, but I'm a firm believer in open communications. Get with your parents, get with school personnel. The schools, assistant principal and the counselors, they're a great resource. Great resource. So, and I encourage our folks to, utilize that. I mean, they're there to help you.
Right. A big piece of that communication, David, is the safety trainings that you all do in the schools.
Yes.
You have some fun ways to do that.
We've got a safety team that I will put up against anybody in the nation, because they're all time being innovative in their curriculum. They're making fun learning. And I've been on that safety team. It's kind of interesting. We'll say, well, now, your bus driver needs to tell you to do this, and a lot of times the kids will rat them out. Well, they don't do that. So we're making an effort this year to kind of cross-train, what they're doing with the bus safety team. Is kind of what we're doing in our curriculum in the classroom. So for our drivers. So.
Well, David, we appreciate you. We appreciate all of our drivers and our aides, our mechanics, our people that work in our garage for our transportation team. Because without these folks, they are as critical part of student success as teachers, as aides, as child nutrition workers, custodians, as anybody. It takes all of us to ensure that students have that success both in and out of the classroom, and building culture and relationships, just like David said, is a big piece in that. A big piece of culture and relationships, what the student transportation team is doing is collecting coats for the holidays. So if you'd like to participate in that and help more children in our area have coats that don't have any, and I'm sure David can attest, and his team can attest to drivers seeing lots of students that don't have coats in the wintertime. So if you'd like to donate to that, stop by our transportation garage on Dixie Highway, just down a little piece from Hardin County Honda, in between Elizabethtown and Radcliffe. And you can also find out more information by calling our transportation garage, and that number is on our website. So again, thank you to our drivers, to everybody that works with child transportation, with student transportation. It's been a fun time, and we'll see you next month on HCS Matters.